Zara laughed and walked away from the Toyota Corolla, calling it too cheap for her. But what she didn't know was that pride, they say, comes before a fall. Watch till the end. I promise there's a powerful life lesson waiting for you. The streets of Lagos buzzed with life that Monday morning. Horns blared from every direction, people rushed across the sidewalks, their shoes tapping quickly against the concrete. The sun had barely finished rising, yet the heat already danced on the pavement. Everyone seemed to be in a hurry, especially Zara. She stood in front of a tall glass building that held the marketing company where she worked. Her long brown hair was tied neatly in a low ponytail, and her fitted blouse and pencil skirt made her look like she belonged on a magazine cover. Zara always dressed to impress. Her heels clicked loudly as she paced back and forth on the curb, glancing down at her gold watch every few seconds. "Oh no," she muttered, rolling her eyes. "I can't be late again." Today was not just another workday. It was a big day. She was supposed to present a marketing idea to a new client, one that could land her a promotion. Everything had to go perfectly. She had planned her outfit, her makeup, and even her handbag. But the one thing she hadn't planned? Lagos traffic. After waiting for 10 long minutes and refreshing her Uber app over and over, she gave up. She needed a car, any car, to take her to her meeting on the island. Just then, an old Toyota Corolla pulled up beside her. It wasn't ugly, but it definitely wasn't fancy. The white paint had faded in a few places, and the air conditioning vent rattled softly. The man behind the wheel was calm-looking. He wore a plain shirt, dark jeans, and leather sandals. His beard was neatly trimmed, and he had kind eyes. He leaned slightly toward the open passenger window and smiled. "Good morning, madame. Do you need a ride?" Zara took one look at him, and his car, and frowned. "Are you a taxi?" "Yes," the man said with a polite nod. "I can take you wherever you're going." Zara tilted her head and stared at the car's dusty dashboard. She glanced down at her clean white blouse and imagined how it would look wrinkled after sitting in that old seat. She imagined the heat, the smell, the embarrassment if someone from work saw her getting out of this kind of car. She waved her hand. "No, thank you. I'm waiting for Uber Black." The man didn't say anything else. He nodded again, gently, and put the car into gear. Without a word, he drove off. Zara rolled her eyes. Imagine me entering that kind of car on a Monday morning. God forbid. As soon as the Corolla turned the corner and disappeared into traffic, a Lexus SUV pulled up in front of her. The Uber logo glowed softly on the windshield. The driver smiled and stepped out to open the door. "Zara?" he asked. "Yes, finally," she said, sliding into the cool, clean back seat. "Let's go. Fast, please." As the Uber glided through the streets, Zara leaned back and let out a breath of relief. The air conditioner blew gently across her face. She crossed her legs and touched up her lipstick with her compact mirror. "This is more like it," she whispered with a small, proud smile. Michael Owolabi didn't need to be driving a taxi that morning. He didn't need to drive at all. In fact, he had 5 luxury cars parked neatly inside the garage of his large mansion in Ikoyi. If he wanted, he could fly across the country in his private jet. But Michael wasn't like most billionaires. He enjoyed the simple things. Every now and then, he left his suits behind and dressed like an ordinary man. He would pull out his old Toyota Corolla, put on his quiet smile, and drive through the busy streets of Lagos. It wasn't because he was bored. It was because he liked to feel connected to real people, real life, real struggles. That morning, when he stopped for the young woman standing outside the tall glass building, he had no idea he'd recognize her. Not at first, but when she turned to look at him with those sharp, confident eyes, something sparked in his memory. He had seen her before. Her name was Zara. He heard it clearly when she answered a call while pacing on the sidewalk. "Yes, I'm Zara. I'm on my way," she had said with a loud voice, checking her phone and rolling her eyes. Michael remembered the name, and the face, and the voice. It had been years ago at a university outreach event he helped fund. Back then, she had been just a student, bright, eager, and full of dreams. She had stood out that day, walking up the stage to collect an award for Most Outstanding Female Student in Marketing. She had smiled wide, holding her certificate with pride. He had been there in the crowd, clapping quietly from the back, unnoticed. Michael had never met her personally. He didn't need to. He preferred to give from the shadows. For him, it wasn't about the praise, it was about the purpose. Now, here she was again, older, stronger, dressed in expensive clothes and high heels, but something had changed. When she turned him down just because of his old car, he had seen it. Not just the pride in her voice, but something deeper. Disappointment. Disappointment in what she had become. As he drove away from her that morning, he didn't feel angry. He felt sad. It was a quiet kind of sadness, the one that sneaks into your heart when you see someone you once believed in take a wrong turn. That evening, back in his home, Michael sat in his private study. The room smelled of books and fresh wood polish. Golden lights from a standing lamp shone gently on the bookshelf. He reached up and pulled down a thick photo album labeled Outreach 2018. He sat at his desk and opened it slowly. Page after page, he flipped through pictures of young students. Most were smiling, some laughing, others holding awards. And then he found it. Zara. A younger version of her stood proudly between two professors, her hair braided, her eyes bright with hope. She held an envelope in her hand and a certificate in the other. Michael stared at the picture for a long time. He gently ran his fingers over the photo as if trying to feel the spirit she once carried. The girl in the picture was different from the woman he saw today. Zara wasn't the first person who had disappointed him. He had met many. People who started with dreams but lost themselves chasing shiny things. But something about her still bothered him. Maybe because he saw potential in her that day, and he still believed it was somewhere inside her. Michael stood and walked over to the window. From there he could see the city lights blinking like tiny stars. Lagos was alive, full of noise and movement, but also full of people like Zara, running so fast that they forget who they used to be. He wasn't sure why he cared so much. Maybe because he saw a piece of his younger self in her, a time when he too had nothing but fire in his chest and hope in his eyes. Back then, nobody gave him a ride. He had walked in the rain to interviews, slept in unfinished buildings, eaten once a day so he could pay for school. But through all that, he never let pride take over his heart. Now, with his billions, he tried to help others stay on the right path, not just by giving money, but by teaching character. That was the purpose of the mentorship foundation he had created, to guide young people who had talent but needed direction. And maybe, just maybe, it was time Zara joined that list. The hall glowed with soft golden lights. Fancy chandeliers hung from the ceiling like upside-down diamonds. Waiters moved between tables, carrying trays of fruit cocktails and small plates of puff-puff and spring rolls. Elegant music played in the background. Everything about the night screamed class. Zara adjusted the strap on her purse and looked around with sharp eyes. She wore a fitted green dress that hugged her curves just right, with heels tall enough to make her stand a little prouder. Her hair was styled in soft curls that framed her face, and her red lipstick gave her the confidence she needed. She had worked hard to get an invitation to this event. Only the top names in business, tech, and media were invited. And tonight, a new foundation was being launched, one that promised mentorship, funding, and business support for young professionals. But the most exciting thing? No one knew who the sponsor was. There were whispers all over the room about the mystery billionaire behind the foundation. People shared guesses like kids playing a game. "I heard it's a foreign investor from Dubai." "No, someone said he's a retired tech genius who's returned to Nigeria." "Maybe it's that oil tycoon from Port Harcourt." Zara didn't care who it was,
as long as he had power and money and the ability to help her rise. She had made up her mind to meet him, whoever he was. Her career needed a boost, and tonight could be her golden ticket. She walked gracefully from one group to another, smiling, laughing, and introducing herself. She dropped her business card in a few well-dressed hands and took others in return. Her eyes stayed on the stage at the front of the room, waiting for the main event. After about an hour, the lights dimmed. Everyone turned to face the stage. A young woman in a black suit walked to the microphone. "Ladies and gentlemen," she said with a smile, "thank you for coming to the launch of the Ottolobby Foundation for Young Professionals." The crowd clapped. The man behind this initiative believes in giving chances to those who work hard but are often unseen. He's a builder, a mentor, and one of Nigeria's quietest success stories. Please welcome Mr. Michael Ottolobby, CEO of the Ottolobby Group. The applause grew louder, and all heads turned to the side as a tall man in a custom dark blue suit walked up the stairs and onto the stage. Zara froze. Her heart skipped a beat. Her eyes widened as the man stood at the microphone. It was him, the taxi driver. But he wasn't wearing sandals now. He wasn't sitting behind a dusty wheel. He wasn't asking if she needed a ride. He was standing tall and confident, dressed like royalty, speaking to a crowd filled with Nigeria's finest. Mr. Michael Ottolobby. Zara's mouth dried. She stared at him, unable to move. Her fingers clutched the stem of her wine glass tightly, but she didn't notice. Michael's deep voice filled the room as he spoke about purpose, growth, and lifting others. "This foundation," he said, "is not just about money. It's about believing in people, even when they don't believe in themselves yet." Zara couldn't stop staring. And then something happened that made her stomach twist. Michael looked directly at her. Their eyes met. He didn't look away. He held her gaze for just a second longer than necessary. There was no anger on his face, no pride, just calm. He gave a small, knowing smile, the kind of smile that carried us, the kind of smile that said, "I remember you. Do you remember me?" Zara looked down quickly, her cheeks burning. Her mind raced. How could this be the same man she had turned away? She had laughed inside when she waved him off. "No, I'm waiting for Uber Black." He had said nothing, not a word. And now, here he was, standing in front of Nigeria's top leaders, being praised and clapped for. The speech ended and the room erupted into applause once more. Michael stepped off the stage and disappeared behind a velvet curtain, followed by his team. Zara sat down quietly at one of the nearby tables. She felt dizzy, not from the wine, but from shame. How could she have known? He had given her a chance to show her heart, but all she had shown was pride. She picked up her phone and stared at the blank screen. Part of her wanted to leave right away. Another part of her wanted to find him, to apologize, or maybe to explain. But explain what? That she judged him by his clothes? By his car? That she thought someone like him had nothing to offer? Zara sat still, feeling small in a room full of powerful people. And somewhere in the back of her mind, one thought repeated itself over and over. What if I missed the most important ride of my life? The event was almost over. People stood around in small groups, chatting, laughing, and exchanging contact information. The mood was light and full of excitement. Everyone was still talking about the mysterious Mr. Michael Ottolobby, the billionaire who had shown up out of nowhere. Zara stood near a round table, holding her glass of juice. She hadn't touched it. Her hands were cold, even though the hall was warm. Her heart beat faster with every passing second. She kept looking around the room, searching for him. She had to speak to him. No, not him. Mr. Ottolobby, she reminded herself. She needed to find the right words, something smart, something powerful. She could still make a good impression, right? After all, she looked good, and she had a strong background.
Maybe he wouldn't remember her. Maybe he met many people every day and forgot faces easily. Finally, she saw him standing near the back of the hall, talking to two older men in suits. He looked relaxed, smiling as he spoke. He didn't seem like someone holding a grudge. That gave Zara the courage she needed. She walked slowly toward him, adjusting her dress and fixing her smile. Her heels clicked softly against the marble floor. When she reached them, the two older men noticed her and politely excused themselves. Now it was just the two of them. Zara took a breath and stepped forward. "Good evening, sir," she said with her brightest voice. "Your speech was truly inspiring." He turned to her, his expression calm. He said, "Thank you." Zara tilted her head slightly and gave a gentle laugh. "I must say, I wasn't expecting the man behind the Oalabi Foundation to be so humble." Michael raised an eyebrow. "Is that so?" "Yes," she continued, trying to sound confident. "You spoke with so much wisdom. It really touched me." He looked at her for a moment, then gave a small smile. "That's kind of you." There was a short pause. Then, in a calm and steady voice, he added, "We've actually met before, a few days ago, on the street. You refused my ride." Zara froze. Her smile disappeared. She opened her mouth, but no words came out. Her mind raced back to that morning, standing on the street, waving off the taxi driver in the dusty Corolla. The sandals, the soft voice. It was him. She had turned him down without a second thought. Not because he was rude, not because the car was unsafe, but because it didn't look good enough for her. A few people nearby had overheard. One young man chuckled under his breath. A woman beside him gave a tiny gasp and whispered, "That was her?" Zara's cheeks burned. She felt like the ground should open and swallow her whole. She forced a laugh, though it came out weak and shaky. "Oh, wow, I didn't realize that was you," she said, trying to smile. "You were in disguise, I guess." Michael simply nodded. No disguise, just being myself. She tried to recover. "Well, you caught me off guard. Lagos mornings, so much stress and—" "It's all right," he said gently, cutting her off. "You don't need to explain." He didn't look angry. That made it worse. If he had shouted, maybe she could have defended herself. But his calm, respectful tone made her feel even smaller. Michael gave her one final look, not unkind, not cold, just honest. Then he turned and walked away, leaving her standing there, speechless. The rest of the night passed in a blur for Zara. She stayed for a while longer, smiling when people talked to her, laughing when needed, but her heart wasn't in it. Her mind kept replaying the moment over and over. "You refused my ride." When she finally got home, she kicked off her heels and dropped her purse on the sofa. She didn't even turn on the lights. The room was quiet, but her thoughts were loud. She sat on the edge of her bed, pulled out her phone, and stared at the black screen. No missed calls, no messages. Then suddenly, her phone buzzed. One new message. From a private number. She opened it. Character is revealed not when the lights are on, but when no one is watching. There was no name, no signature, but she didn't need one. She knew exactly who it was from. Her throat tightened. For the first time in a long time, Zara felt something deep inside her shift. It wasn't anger. It wasn't embarrassment. It was realization. She had been chasing the image of success, expensive cars, stylish clothes, powerful people. But tonight, the one person who actually had all of that had come in quietly, humbly, and tested her character. And she had failed. Zara put her phone down and stared into the dark room. She had some thinking to do. 3 weeks had passed since the night of the networking event, but Zara had not forgotten a single moment. The lights, the speech,
the look in Michael's eyes when he said, "You refused my ride." And that message, the one that had hit her harder than any insult ever could. Character is revealed not when the lights are on, but when no one is watching. That one sentence stayed with her like a mirror, showing her things about herself she didn't want to see. Zara had always believed she was working hard, and she was. But somewhere along the way, she had confused success with status. She wore the right clothes, knew the right people, and rode in the right cars. But had she grown on the inside? The answer hurt. So she made a decision. One Monday morning, dressed in a plain white blouse and navy trousers, Zara walked into her office and submitted her resignation letter. Her boss was shocked. "You've got a big promotion coming," he said. "Are you sure about this?" "Yes," she replied softly. "I think it's time for something different." That afternoon, she sat at her small kitchen table and opened her laptop. She typed in, "Olalabi Foundation Mentorship Program, apply."
Her fingers hovered over the keyboard for a moment. Then she took a deep breath and began to type, not as a woman trying to impress, but as someone finally ready to learn. In her application, she wrote about her strengths but also her flaws. She told the truth about the night of the event. She admitted that she had judged someone too quickly and how that moment had changed her. She clicked Submit and waited. Days passed. Then, on a quiet Thursday morning, she received an email. Subject, "Welcome to the Olalabi Mentorship Program." Zara stared at the screen. She couldn't believe it. Her heart beat fast with excitement and nervousness. Attached to the email was a schedule for orientation and a personal message. "We all make mistakes. The ones who grow from them deserve a second ride." It wasn't signed, but she knew. Michael had read her application himself. Orientation day arrived faster than she expected. The event was held at one of the Olalabi Foundation's training centers, simple, modern, and filled with people from different walks of life. Young men and women just like her, all chasing growth, all seeking purpose. Zara wore a simple Ankara dress with flat shoes. No makeup, no fancy hairdo. She wasn't trying to prove anything anymore. She just wanted to start fresh. During the sessions, she listened more than she spoke. She took notes, she asked real questions. She found herself smiling for the first time in weeks, not because someone noticed her clothes, but because she was learning. At the end of the orientation, each participant was handed a folder with their mentor assignment and program path. Zara opened hers and read, "Mentor, Mr. Michael Olalabi." Her hands trembled a little. Was it real? Outside the building, the late afternoon sun cast a warm glow over the parking lot. People chatted in groups, saying goodbye and exchanging numbers. Zara stood alone, clutching her folder. Just then, a sleek black car pulled up quietly in front of her. It wasn't a flashy sports car, just a neat, well-kept sedan with tinted windows. The driver's window rolled down. Michael was behind the wheel. He wasn't wearing a suit today, just a plain gray polo shirt and simple trousers. He looked exactly like he had that morning weeks ago, when she first saw him on the street. He smiled. "Ready for a better journey?" Zara blinked. A soft laugh escaped her lips, this time full of peace, not pride. She walked over and opened the door. "Yes," she said, her voice steady. "I'm ready." She got into the car, not like someone chasing luxury, but like someone stepping into a new chapter. They didn't speak much at first. The car rolled out of the parking lot, smooth and quiet. The city buzzed outside the windows, but inside the car, everything felt calm. Finally, Zara turned to him. "Thank you for not holding that day against me." Michael glanced at her and nodded. People change. What matters is what you do after you learn. Zara looked out the window and smiled. The skyline of Lagos passed by, full of life and motion. But this time, she wasn't racing to keep up with it. She was moving with purpose, with meaning. Her second ride had begun. And this time, she wasn't looking for comfort. She was chasing growth.